Hey, hi, hello. My name is Chainlink and welcome to a new video. I just want to thank you guys as we're almost to 100 subs, which is a pretty big deal. I also want to say sorry for the long break. I've been sick. Um, I actually got sick 3 times somehow, and I felt like it wasn't great to just sit and record while I was sounding like complete dog water. So I decided to take a break and just make videos in the meantime. I do have some more stuff coming. You guys just have to stay tuned for that. But Marvel. That name alone needs no explanation, I'm sure. But most of you probably are fans for Marvel, me included. However, I'm sure a lot of you have noticed a concerning pattern. And don't worry, I've noticed it too. So I do want to give my 2 cents in why and how they could possibly fix it, and maybe some other loose threads. Now, at this point, I'm sure you've heard the argument of Marvel should have ended after Endgame. And I completely agree. Any person who saw the hype and Endgame itself would have said, yep, that's it. It was literally called Endgame. But now, most of this comes from Disney, which, let me get this out of the way now. Most of the choices made for the MCU is made by Disney, as they're the ones funding the movies. In all sense of the word, Marvel to Disney is literally a cash cow. Due to this, of course, Disney has been making bad movie after bad movie after a bad movie, which is where you hear the quality over quantity argument. A good example of this is actually Thunderbolts, a new movie with great characters, charm, story, and a great cast that's not just slop force fed to us. The jokes land, the characters aren't annoying and has great development, and has a deeper and more entertaining story. So, not Love and Thunder. The story of depression is something a lot of us can relate to and connect to and enjoy. Now, due to Disney's constant need of money, directors and writers are forced to make subpar and crappy movies, keeping a lot of their good IPs in limbo. And this is, of course, to use for other phases. A lot of characters and plots shown in the MCU has gone to waste. A good example of this is Secret Invasion. In the comics, it's a great story with a lot of depth and a confusing story about characters. Basically about how beloved characters that we thought we knew end up not being who they thought they were. And just how deep the Skrulls are as characters. As in Captain Marvel, we barely even got that, as it was just kind of whatever this is. But the MCU completely slandered it, making it more about Nick Fury and how he freaking sucks and then dies and then it just sucks. And retconning characters for absolutely no reason. Like no reason. And not to mention the really odd use of AI, which nowadays is kind of a big no-no. Now, this isn't the first time this has happened, as characters like Miss Marvel, Falcon, and even bigger characters like Hulk and She-Hulk and, well, every other Hulk-related person in the Marvel Universe. And that needs its own video. But these characters have depth that aren't really explored, like Miss Marvel's coming-of-age story and having to deal with her powers. And not to mention the odd power change to fit into the MCU. If you don't know what I'm talking about, they ended up changing her powers, as originally Miss Marvel had stretchy powers, kind of similar to Mr. Fantastic, where she was able to form her body into whimsical ways. She was able to change her skin color and all sorts of cool stuff, but they ended up changing it and retconning it to make her have a mutant gene. Now, actually, technically in the comics, she also is a mutant, but that's literally only because the MCU made her a mutant, so they didn't really have a choice to change that. You'll notice that too, is in some comics, they actually changed the character to look more like their MCU version, just so that they can get some more flack and more people flocking to go see the movies instead. Falcon and Shuri having to fill big shoes in the MCU is also kind of a big thing. And not to mention, these are the shoes that they care about. T'Challa and Steve Rogers. And the comics really kind of show how they deal with that and come to terms with it. Note how in the first phase, Hulk had depth. The scene in the first Avengers movie when Hulk describes what he went through and what he tried to do to himself just to escape the Hulk really gives him more comic accurate feel. Now, One thing that is pretty common with these characters too, using Hulk as the biggest example, is Marvel kind of use these characters as nothing burgers, if you get what I mean. As in, character like Bruce Banner who has multiple personalities showing through Hulk being one of them, full of rage and contempt and having a great story about his father and how it shaped him to be the Hulk, is kind of left in the forefront, never to be seen again, which is really unfortunate. And then other characters like Ant-Man, even though yes, he doesn't have a hard and deep story like some of the other characters do, he's such a really cool character that they kind of just completely messed up and slandered and ruined. But compared to this, there's also another issue that the Marvel unks think is the main issue: the woke apocalypse. I cannot stress that sarcasm enough. Apparently the woke apocalypse is slowly killing the MCU, and as a longtime Marvel fan, not really, to be honest. No, this comes from a lot of the older crowd who are used to the original phases, like the basic ass Avengers and a couple others. And like I mentioned before, this has kind of been a gradual decline, and a lot of it is actually more bad writing than the woke. Things like LGBTQ+ representation, race, and gender norms. Actually, cartoons have been doing this for years, and in a really, really good and, I think, healthy way. These cartoon shows things to have to do with race, LGBTQ+, and gender norms, and they do it with grace. Good examples of this are Steven Universe, Adventure Time, and Craig of the Creek, and even more of these examples we're going to put on screen now. These cartoons never outright make it known that gay characters are in the universe, showing some hints and nods and only showing it in a powerful or appropriate moment. Sometimes it's the end of the series, sometimes just a moment that is full of emotion that needs to be shown. They also show how race and different genders can play a crucial part in both a leader or a strong role. This goes to show none of this is new. It's just starting to get more mainstream. A good example of this, like I said before, was the whole thing with Shuri and Jane Foster and even Wiccan. But the best example of this is probably She-Hulk, as she was probably the most slandered amongst the characters that have a lot of potential. Now, if you don't know, Jennifer Walters is She-Hulk, and actually Hulk's cousin. Now, besides this point, Jennifer Walters' whole gimmick is that She-Hulk is a complete opposite of Jennifer Walters, just like how Hulk is the complete opposite of Bruce Banner. She-Hulk is more confident and out there, while Jennifer Walters is quiet and very contained. Meanwhile, the MCU kind of forces these two different characters together, and it just makes it feel sloppy and all around not that good. Now, besides this little point, also the fact that they're kind of making Hulk look bad by trying to compare the whole sob story that She-Hulk was trying to prove compared to Bruce Banner's story, which, by the way, is 10 times more sad, almost having to end his life just to end his suffering. The whole thing with trying to compare them to each other is completely stupid, as in the comics they're usually together, and they actually see each other as companions and equals, instead of competing over one or another. Was it funny? Sorta. But did it really need to be necessary? Not really. If you've been reading the comics, you probably noticed something as well. They're kinda mid. Not all of them are mid, but Spider-Man is going through the ringer. And not to mention whatever this is. But notice how the non-mainstream comics, as in the collab comics, are really good. Avengers vs. Alien, Avengers vs. Godzilla, and the entire Ultimate Multiverse storyline are all really, really good reads. But they're all non-canon. And going outside Marvel, DC is doing the exact same with the Absolute Universe. I feel like a lot of this is due to how they're low-key kind of messing up the main universe to add unnecessary plots that kind of match with the MCU's, like Ms. Marvel, but also is because they're trying to experiment and make it new for newer viewers, and it just doesn't work. Now, Spider-Man is a good example of this by kind of messing up his story and changing the way he does things. Like, seriously, leaving a universe after promising his wife he was going to come back, going to his worst enemy to beg for his help, and then come back just to find out she cheated on him with the person who put him there in the first place? It's not good. To Marvel, the separate universe thing is the one-way ticket to Moneyville, as they don't need to connect anything because, well, it's a different universe. That's why the Ultimate Universe is 10 times better than the 616 universe. Better writing. That's seriously the main line in the sand here, is it's bad writing. Not just for the MCU, but for the comics as well. Not to mention a lot of stuff happening in the writing world right now. If artists were given time and resources to make good scripts instead of focusing on money and attention, then I feel like it would greatly benefit Marvel. But I do think there needs to be reboot, which obviously they're doing. Obviously. Now that would benefit them for sure, as it would be a fresh start. But for now, they need to focus on what the fans are saying for years. We don't need 200 comics and movies by the end of the year. We just need solid, good comic storylines and movies. But to wrap things up, Marvel has huge potential, not just MCU, but in the comics as well. However, it's just all around crappy writing and not listening to fans' feedback. If they put more passion and time into writing these characters, I feel like we would see a huge turnaround. I mean, look at all the other projects that they're doing, and how good those are. But I hope I can bring you guys some awesome entertainment. Please like and subscribe for more content like this, and I'll catch you on the other side of the fence. Later!